So a different take on pasta are making pierogies. I'm asked about this recipe often. People remember pierogies from their childhood and they want it to be something that they make with their family. This is a great recipe for pierogies. Really simple. You can adapt it with any flavorings that you are used to putting in your pierogies. So we're going to start out with the dry mix. So we've got sweet rice flour, again, a nice fine rice flour. We've got tapioca. We've got white rice and brown rice. As well, we've got some guar gum that helps it stick together and make it a bit thicker. And then we've got some salt. So let's just mix these up. Similar process to the other pastas, different ingredients. So for the liquid portion, we have 1/4 cup of egg whites. Now, 1/4 cup of egg whites is about the egg whites from 2 large eggs. Then we're going to add 1/4 cup of milk. And we're going to add 1/4 cup of cream. So that's where the extra fat comes in, so you don't have to add any oil to this recipe. So we've got egg whites, milk, and cream. And that's what we're going to put into the center of our pasta. All the dry ingredients here, and mix it up. This dough stays very white. Once it's no longer soupy, you'll want to pull it out onto the board and work with it. Ah, there we go. Didn't take long at all. Let's put some sweet rice flour down on the board and pull this out. This recipe makes about 36 pierogies. Now it all depends how big you like your pierogies. I like them sort of small and dainty. But this recipe as well can be doubled or tripled. If I know some families and they like to get together and everybody does a different thing. They sort of do it like an assembly line. And then they end up with lots of pierogies. When we had the bakery, we had a pierogi day. And anybody who was interested in learning how to make gluten-free pierogies came by that day. Everybody had a separate job. And we all went home with a tray of pierogies. This dough is going to feel a little different as you're kneading it. It's going to feel a little chunky, so you want to remember to knead it until it's nice and smooth. Now when you're making the pierogies, you can put any filling in that you want. I use a simple filling. I boil potatoes and I fry up some bacon, and once the potatoes are boiled, they're peeled and boiled, I rice them or mash them. Then while they're still hot, I add cheese to them. And if you're going to add cheese to potatoes, you want to use a strong cheese, like an old cheese or an extra old cheese. That way there's lots of flavor. The potatoes will turn orange as the cheese melts. And then I put my bacon bits in. So as you can see, this has come together really nicely. It's not sticking to anything anymore. And it's nice and smooth. There's no lumps in it. And again, that only took a couple of minutes. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make our pierogies. So we're going to pull a portion off, make a ball with it, use my handy dandy little roller here. This is a fondant roller. So you want to make the dough nice and thin. You can use the pasta machine if you want. I find it more fun doing it this way. You can get a glass. I use a standard glass from my kitchen. You can use whatever size you'd like. Now, if you're making them as a group, one person will just keep making the rounds, and you don't want them to dry out too much. So you can put them between wax paper or small bits of parchment paper. But if you're making them on your own, you want to take them now, put a very small amount of the filling in. You don't need much filling. A little bit of filling goes a very long way. You can see the bacon bits in there and it's nice and orange. You take a little bit of water around the sides, fold it over, press it down, and use a fork to crimp it. So this pierogi is now ready to go into boiling water. Let's make a bunch more and then we can boil them off. So the pot's boiling for our pierogies. Let's just gently put those in there. You don't want to crowd them too much. You can make these ahead and keep them in the fridge. They'll stay nice and soft, or you can freeze them, or you can boil them and freeze. So we're going to let these float to the top, which will only take a couple of minutes. And then we're going to let them sit there and cook for another minute or so after that. This is a very delicate dough, but it does hold up really well under boiling. See that they're all nicely staying together. They're not opening up. They do expand a little bit, and if you're not sure whether they're actually baked off or not, you can compare them, and the ones that are a little bit larger will be the ones that are baked off. So I have beside me here a fry pan with some melted butter. You can eat the pierogies just like this, boiled off, or you can fry them in butter. And they get a little crispy on the outside. This is my favorite way to eat them. So you can, of course, eat the pierogies just boiled with sour cream is the real way people like to eat them, and maybe with a little bit of bacon or spring onion on them. I like them fried again in butter. And when I do that, I just like to add a little bit of salt. These are going to be really hot, but I know how good they're going to be. So you can see there's that potato cheese filling coming right out. They're chewy. So good, you can taste the bacon. The dough from the pierogi doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it's really durable and it holds in all of that other flavor. And it boils up really well and it fries up really well too. Oh, I could make a real meal of these. These are great to make a whole lot with your friends, put them in the freezer, and then have on a Saturday during winter when you really don't feel like cooking. This is an amazing dinner. I'm going to keep eating, but now you too can make gluten-free pierogies in your own kitchen.